Hello, Lake City. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Michael Davis. I'm a Public Information Officer with the Hinsdale County Unified Coordination Group. I know that most of you folks know your way around this building, but we do have a few guests, so I'd like to take care of a little housekeeping before we get started. In the event of an emergency, we'll exit through these side doors. If for any reason these doors are blocked, you can go down this hallway to my left, and there are additional doors to the outside. The restrooms are also down this hallway. If you would please turn your cell phones to silent, we would certainly appreciate it. We've got a lot of information to share with you tonight, and our panel includes, starting here, Sheriff Justin Casey, Hinsdale County. Mr. Jeff Wright, our group leader from the Unified Coordination Group. We've got David Dean, the engineer from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Mr. Drew Peterson from the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. He is our state agency administrator. And finally, at the end of the table, last but not least, we have Ms. Caroline Mitchell, Lake City Town Manager. We also have representatives here from BLM and the county. If you have specific questions for them at the end of the presentation, we'll get them up here and make sure that your questions are answered. If you would, in the interest of time, please hold your questions till the end. We'll make sure that everybody gets a chance to ask their questions. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sheriff Casey.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank you for being here and working to be informed about the issues that the high avalanche activity is having on our community. Thank you for your involvement in what's going on. First of all, I want to say that all of this is because of a combination of factors. It's not just one thing that has caused this and caused us to be concerned and look into what the potential options are that we can do. Obviously, we had a high snow year. We also had an unusually high, unprecedented high amount of avalanche activity this winter. We've also had a cooler than normal spring, so we're not getting that spring runoff the way we would normally see it. So, as we're looking at all of these different issues, it's not just one of those, it's the compounding of those different factors that's causing the concern. And that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about what the potential impact to our community could be from the avalanches, the debris, and then the spring runoff that we anticipate. The other day, someone stopped me and asked me, they said, "You're the sheriff, can't you control the weather?" But unfortunately, a couple months ago, I also lost my weather remote control in the snow. So this year, I guess we're going to have to depend on God to control the weather. But we do have a whole lot of people who are here to help us evaluate, to help us look into what's going on, to look into what the options can be, and to help us to be prepared in the event that we do have an emergency from all these different factors that have come together. As we do this, the best outcome that we're hoping for is that we do a lot of planning, a lot of preparations, and then we don't have any kind of issue. And all those plans and all those preparations can go on a shelf and be ready in the event that we have another emergency down the road. So we're working hard on those plans. We're working hard on what those options can be, and we've got lots of help here to help us do that. And we're hoping that this doesn't turn into some sort of big incident, some big emergency. On the flip side, the worst case scenario would be if we decided that this really isn't a big deal and we decided not to plan. And if we decided not to plan and then there was a big incident, we did have a higher than normal spring runoff, we did have avalanche debris causing different issues, but we didn't have those plans, that would set us up for potential catastrophic issues or serious concerns for our community. That's the outcome that we're working hard to avoid. We're not willing to just sit by and say, well, I hope it goes well. That's why we have all of these people here and so many people in our community working hard to plan and to prepare and to make sure that we're ready just in case. So with that in mind, we have called a lot of different subject matter experts. We've got lots of people who come in to help us evaluate, to help us to look into it and make good decisions with good information. So they're gathering that data, they're coming up with plans, they're coming up with things we could do proactively, as well as how we can respond appropriately if we do have an issue or an emergency that comes our way. Our job is to put that information together and to make sure to pass that information on to you. Because we all know that in Hinsdale County, we have a lot of people here who are very capable, very resilient, very self-reliant. That's one of the things that makes this community strong. So you need good information so that you can make good decisions. Because each person has to take that information and evaluate it and evaluate what their comfort level is so that we can all make our own individual plans while we're working to make plans for the community as a whole as well. So I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate you paying attention, asking questions, and being involved as we look at this and work through it together. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Jeff Wright, who's going to give us a better picture of what it is we're looking at as we've gathered this information.
Thank you, Sheriff. Again, my name is Jeff Wright. I am this week I'm the UCG lead. I'm the team leader for the team that is down here trying to put this all together in a sense that is factual and what we're looking at. To be upfront with you, is there a threat still? Yes, absolutely. The threat is still up in the hill. We are chewing at it as much as we can with the contractors that we have up there. However, like the Sheriff said, there's a significant amount of snow up there. There is it's supposed to be a wet week, all week long. Dumping water or more snow onto this isn't going to help it any. But there still is a significant threat. I'm not going to get into it like I did last week and scare half the town and, people are like writing me hate mail and stuff. But I will tell you that there is still a significant threat that we face as a town. Absolutely. If you picked up the packet by the front door, if you open it, you should see somewhat of a handout. It says Model Peak Forecast at the top. If you didn't get one, maybe someone around can just kind of share with you a little bit. I'll get started again a little bit. I won't jump too far ahead though. If you're looking at that, it says Model Peak Forecast on the front. This was put out by the National Weather Service just this morning. I got the permission to cut and paste a little bit, put a couple different things together so I could give it to you guys. This is not stuff that, this is stuff that came out of the National Weather Service just this morning. It's the best information that they have based on the weather, based on modeling, that kind of thing. I'm just going to start at the top. The most probable day for the peak water runoff is around June 19th, with a range of June 12th to June 27th. That is the peak water runoff. That's why we look outside right now and the river is so low. We haven't even gotten close to that peak at this point. Second bullet down, the highest flow since 1938 was 2,410 CFS. Which was in 1957 is when we hit that peak. These are projections only. However, they are the best set of information we have at this time when it comes to the weather and this projection on the peak runoff. Snow, Slumgullion SnowTel is ranked second out of 39 years for this date. and the model snow has 27 inches in the upper region, 11,000 to 14,000 feet. Right under where it says 11,000 to 14,000 feet, you'll see in green right there that the max was in 1957 at 2,410 CFS. Our average is 1,460. If you look at the picture there to the left, these are our projections for what we should see come peak runoff. I'll start in the middle, there's a 50-50 chance we will see 2,530 CFS when everything begins to melt at our peak runoff. Now if you go back up to that second bullet, the highest flow in 1957 was 2,410. So we will be above that. So while you step outside now and it's beautiful, you got a light coat, you can, ride your bike down the street, and the river is low and it looks gorgeous. It is, the threat is significantly lower at this point, but the closer we get to that mark, the more and more that threat goes up. Does that make sense? There's a 10% chance that we'll hit 3,160 CFS. But there's a 90% chance that we'll hit that 2,120 CFS. I know a lot of people have asked me, show us something. Show us something. This is definitely something to look at. This does change. I mean, if we continue into this cold weather and we get very little melting up there, it could change. If it changes, we'll share it with you. If it goes down, we'll share that with you too. There's a lot of people up here looking at these projections, doing these models, flying these little drones with LiDAR on them, doing a number of different things. But I can tell you that I hope that we all look silly at the end of this. By we all, I mean us. Some people kind of believe the threat and they know it's out there and they understand it. Other people don't necessarily believe in the threat and think that we're silly. And I'm on their side. I hope that we all look completely silly after this and that we can walk away with the county having the best alert and warning plan, having the best response plan, having the best evacuation plan, having the best reentry plan, having the best coordination plan, all the things that we've been planning and doing, for the weeks that we've been here. So honestly, I hope that we look silly and that absolutely nothing happens. Hopefully our mitigation efforts up the hill, down the hill, pay off. I really do. BLM, we're going to touch base. There is. Has a map. I know there's been some questions on what is closed, what is not closed. They have a map up there and they'll be available for questions and people can look at that map after we're done here. Debris removal of the avalanches. There is a contractor, County Road 20. They're making great progress. We'll have some slides here in just a minute of some of the progress that they're doing. Some of these avalanches are 100 feet deep. They've melted significantly in the last 2 weeks or so since the real hard frost isn't kind of with us anymore. But they're still there. I mean, once the snow and ice goes away, there's still a lot of debris in those flows. So we are not out of the woods, absolutely not. But they are making a huge, significant. They're cutting into that chunks of stuff up there, making a huge difference. So when you see those guys in town, shake their hand, tell them thank you. When you see these guys in town, shake their hand, tell them thank you. Thank you to the county, thank you to the city for everything that they're doing to help protect this town and this county from the threats that are up there. And as always, I'll be available afterwards for any comments, questions, that kind of thing. So I'm going to pass it off to the Army Corps of Engineers.
Good evening, Lake City. My name is David Dean. I'm with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We were brought in actually, for technical assistance. I need technical assistance. For sandbags. It sounds like sandbagging is a fairly new event for the city. And so we're going to go through some basic items. What we're trying to do is for flood preparation and flood fighting, this is one of the tools in the toolbox. And the more people that are aware of the proper techniques of how to do this, the better you are at reducing your risk for a last line of defense and protecting the structures and protecting the things that are most important to you. So it's kind of a full circle here. So supply and transportation. So city and county, it sounds like they've been bringing in sand, they've been bringing in bags. Filling sandbags, it sounds like you have a whole cohort of volunteers who've been putting together sandbags, and that's awesome that you guys are motivated to get that done, because having enough volunteers who are able and willing to do that is important, not only now, but also in the future. You gotta move the sandbags, you gotta build your sandbag barriers, and then after you place your sandbags, you also have to do flood patrols, see what's working and what's not. Flood fighting is not a one-stop shop. It is a progressive, you look at it, is it working, is it not? Why isn't it working? Let's try a different technique. And support services through the sheriff. So there's realities of flood fighting. Mentally and physically, it's demanding. It's long hours. Your safety is a top priority. You need to make sure that you're comfortable with your limits on what you're willing to lift, what you're willing to move, and you're going to know those better than anyone else. And it's a long process. It's repetitive. It's constant moving. It's the progress is not going to be significant right through the gate. It's going to be slow, and you got to make sure that you don't get frustrated. You stay calm. You take breaks. You stay alert, and see what works. And if it doesn't, then try what you can do to try to fix it. So Operation 1 will be filling the sandbags, which you guys have done a great job of. Operation 2 is moving the sandbags. 3, building your barriers, and 4 is maintaining sandbags and monitoring seepage. So a quick note about the sandbags is that they are prone to ultraviolet attack, meaning when they're in the sunlight, they start to break down like any other plastic. So as you see them around town, you deploy them, you're going to notice that sandbags either need to get replaced, need to get rebagged, and that's just a constant iterative process since this situation seems to be drawn out. Typical flood fighting is a short time frame, and this is a very specific event. Sandbagging tool is very basic. You need sand or other available soil. You can use, doesn't sound like you guys have a lot of clays up here. You guys have a little bit of silts, but you got a lot of gravels, you got a lot of sands. If push comes to shove, you can start finding your own material to put in bags as long as you have them. It seems like the most common bag right now is plastic. You can also use burlap. You need a shovel, and I'd highly recommend gloves. Otherwise, I know you guys are mountain folk. You guys are tough as nails, so I'm sure you guys can handle it. So moving a sandbag correctly, make sure to wear your gloves, lift with your knees, not your back, and use a passing line to move the sandbags. Usually what that means is you're standing there, and the person across from you is standing across from you, and they're facing you, and the sandbag's just going to move in a straight line, and you're just going to keep moving laterally, and these sandbags are going to go in the line just like you show in the picture down here. And that diagonal pass formation is the most effective that we've seen in the Corps. So there's two methods, there's two main methods for filling up sandbags, and they both have different takes on it. So you fill your sandbags half to about 2/3 full. This seems to be kind of what's being deployed right now, and that's great. You tie the bag at the end, leaving room. You don't want to cinch it down all the way because then you don't have any room for it to actually move around and fill in those voids, and then water can obviously seep through. You stack them like bricks where you overlap your joints, and you walk over each row of bags after placement, and that helps densify the sand, and it helps fill in the voids to prevent water from seeping through. Some considerations for this first method is it uses less bags, but they're harder to handle. They're heavier, and you're at a higher risk for back injury with the twisting, the turning, and the lifting. Method 2 is you fill sandbags about 1/3 full. You leave the ends untied and tucking in as you go. You stack them like bricks, just like the previous method, overlapping your joints. And then again, you walk over your sandbags after placement. They're easier to pass diagonally, and you have a little bit less risk, but obviously you're going to have to use more bags. So we're going to play a short video, and it does a good job kind of going over the process, as well as how to protect structures from water seepage.
Fill and place them quickly and correctly. Working in pairs, one person holds the sandbag open while the other shovels sand. Holding the bags in a comfortable position reduces fatigue. As a bag is ready, the open edge of the bag is folded back, forming a collar to help grasp the bag and protect fingers. A shovel full of sand is placed on the lip of the bag to hold it open. Only fill the bags 1/3 full. This will help prevent back injuries when the bags are passed, carried, and placed. Essential in building a strong sandbag structure is the positioning of the sandbags. When a bag is laid in position, the corner of the mouth of the bag is folded over, away from the flow or source of water. The next bag is then placed over the fold, with its corner folded over as well. This continues with each bag in the row. As additional rows are laid, all joints in neighboring bags are overlapped at least 1/3 of a bag. The bags are continually stomped into place to ensure a good seal with the ground and between the bags. Structure protection. Sandbag construction is also used to protect homes and buildings from rising floodwaters. First, doors, vents, and basement windows are covered with plywood. Then, a solid piece of 10 mil plastic is laid on the ground and up the wall of the structure, at least 1 foot above the projected height of the bags. The width will be 1.5 times the planned height of the sandbag protection. The first row of bags is placed on the plastic against the structure. Again, each joint is overlapped and stomped into place.
Great. So obviously they use the second method, right? So they have about 1/3 full and they don't tie the bags and then they just fold it over. But as far as stockpiling sandbags, you guys have done the right thing. You fill them up, you tie them off, because when you're trying to transport them from these pallets to somewhere else and then to its final destination, I think that what you guys are doing is the best practice. So typical sandbag placement, you don't want to place them in one barrier line. If water comes up, current comes up to it, it's going to knock it right over. So they recommend doing a pyramid. Usually for each wide you go, you add a little more. So you go 2 wide, you go 2 high. You go 3 wide, you go 3 high. And so on, depending on the width that you're trying to achieve, which is obviously based on the height, that your final height that you're trying to achieve. So stacking around the building, so sandbagging doorways is most common. Use Visqueen, which is like a plastic sheeting, whatever you have is available. And plywood also, if that's available. And then obviously you start stacking your sandbags in part of that. And that's all I have. And the sheriff is next.
So as we've been working, evaluating, and looking into what the concerns are, something that I want to point out, one of our biggest concerns has been the effect that the avalanche debris could have on the historic dams up County Road 20. So we've been looking very hard at that. We've been working with subject matter experts to come in, to look at those dams, to evaluate those, and help us understand what the potential risk to Lake City could be if those dams were to start to flood with debris coming downstream from the avalanches. After consulting, evaluating, and with lots of collaboration with different partners, the conclusion is that the safest thing for us to do for the town of Lake City is to remove the Hidden Treasure Dam that's located by the hardtack mine just upstream from the Alpine Gulch Trail. This decision was made in cooperation with the state, with the county, with the owners of the dam. After a lot of looking at it, of looking at potential risks, what would it look like and what would the potential dangers be if it were to start holding water again and then potentially fail. Because that dam also has a lot of historic significance to this area, as they were evaluating it, they also had a chance to fly drones with LiDAR to look at that dam, to photograph that dam, so that before it was dismantled, we also had a record of where that dam was and what that dam looked like. We know that it's a sad loss to our community to look at pulling down that dam, but we also think that with all the evaluation, that's the best option for the safety of our community. So that's why that decision has been made. Work to start dismantling that is going to start on Tuesday of next week. We're going to have some contractors up there working to slowly dismantle that dam, pull that down safely, and make it so that we don't have that as a possible restriction for the debris that we anticipate to come down. The Ute-Ulay Dam was also evaluated, which is just upstream from the Hidden Treasure Dam. As we evaluated that one, it was determined that the structural stability of the Ute-Ulay Dam is very different from the Hidden Treasure Dam. Ironically enough, one of the problems with the Hidden Treasure Dam is it's more structurally sound, so it's more likely to hold water. The Ute-Ulay Dam, in its construction and the current state of that dam, it's more likely to erode and crumble if things impacted or if water started to build up. So in the evaluation of the Ute-Ulay Dam, as we talked with subject matter experts, as we met and looked at potential risks, the Ute-Ulay Dam is likely to actually self-regulate. As things come down, it's most likely going to crumble and allow debris to pass through it. So with that in mind, it was determined for the Ute-Ulay Dam to leave it in place but monitor it. To leave that structure standing there but keep an eye on it and look to see if debris is actually passing through as we anticipate. Another topic that falls under the Sheriff's Office is the public safety aspect of making sure that people are aware, that they're alerted and notified if we have any kind of concern or issue that's heightening in its intensity throughout this. So with that in mind, I want to remind you again that our primary notification system to get emergency messages out is the Code Red system. So we're strongly encouraging everyone to sign up for Code Red so that we can get those messages out to you. You can go over to Public Health if you need help signing up for Code Red, and they can help you sign up your cell phone, your landline. Let us know how we can notify you with that system so that you can get those alerts if they affect the area where you're at. With that in mind, though, Code Red's not the only warning system that we're working on. If you remember last week, we tested an outdoor siren. This week, we're going to test a different outdoor siren because we want to set up a community warning system. And in this case, it's going to be an outdoor siren system. What I want you to remember, though, is an outdoor siren system is exactly that. It's designed to warn people who are out of doors. So it will be a loud siren, and then when we test it, it's also going to have a voice notification system. It's going to let you know it is a test, and that test is going to happen tomorrow at about 2 p.m. So you can be listening for that. Remember, it is just a test. We're just testing this to see if this is an effective tool for us to use for people who might not get that Code Red message, might not be there to hear a reverse 911 in their home. Because notification is incredibly important, we don't rely on just one system. Code Red is our primary system, and that's going to reach most of the people, but we're also doing that outdoor siren. We also, if we had a real emergency, would be doing a reverse 911 to landlines. And we also would utilize the iPause system. iPause is essentially reverse 911 to cell phones that are in the area. So we have multiple systems that we would be using to reach as many people as possible. If we had an actual emergency and you got that message would give you more than just a notification, it would also give you instructions. And so I want to remind you again, we talked about this last week, but reminders are good, about the different levels of readiness that we have in our evacuation plan. And the first one is to get ready. If you have a get ready message, what that's saying is that we want you to know that there is a concern that evacuation could be coming in the future. It's not imminent, it's not happening right away, but it could be coming in the future, and you should be thinking about preparedness. Having a personal plan, thinking about what you would take with you, who you would notify, where you would go. So that would be the get ready message. The next step up would be to get set. Getting set means that we have a heightened concern that evacuation is more likely, that it's coming soon. If that's the case, you should evaluate your level of preparedness. Do you have stuff ready to go? Do you have stuff in a bag? Do you have the things that you know you would need? And we've had handouts in the past, and I think we've got information on our county website that gives you lists, ideas of here's things to think about if you're preparing to evacuate, so that you can go down that checklist and make sure you have those important things. Make sure that you've got plans for yourself, for your family, for your pets, for belongings that you care about. That's the step that you would be doing at that get ready. I'm sorry, at the get set. If your evacuation could take longer because maybe you have additional needs, or maybe you know that evacuation of the amount of property or the things that you're going to take with you will be longer, at that get set stage is an opportunity for you to voluntarily evacuate. And say, for my comfort level, for the amount of time it's going to take for me to go, maybe at that get set, that's where you make a personal choice to say, now is when I want to head out. And then you would activate your own evacuation plan at that time. And then the third level that we have is to go now. If you get that message, that lets you know that the risk, the threat that we see is imminent, and we are actually evacuating. If you get that message, then that means you should leave the area right away. You should evacuate. That's not the time to pack. That's not the time to sit down and make a list. That's the time to go now. In the event that an evacuation is ordered, we're not going to send out a message that just says evacuate. We're going to give you more information than that. We're going to let you know what the concern is. We're going to let you know which way to go. As we said last week, we really have two options, right? We can go north and we can go south. Depending on the threat, we'll also direct you which way is the safest evacuation route, depending on where the threat's coming. So that will be included in the message. It'll also tell you an evacuation point. We've set up designated evacuation points so that once you leave the area and you come to that evacuation point, it's a place where you're in a safety zone, where there's not a threat, where you can take a breath, where we can give you some more information about where to go, how to get information so that you have consistent updates on the situation. And so we can also have you accounted for and know that you're safe. So we'll have evacuation points established, and you'll know where that is if we send out that evacuation message. Again, it's fairly simple for us. We have one designated north, and we have one designated south. And so we'll be able to stop and talk with people and get you information as you leave if it comes to evacuation. I also, before I close, want to mention road closures or areas that are closed, because I want you to be up to date on that. Currently, the Sheriff's Office has worked hard with the BLM on different areas that need to be closed because of the avalanche debris concern. So County Road 20 is closed right now at that normal winter closure gate, which is about 4 miles up County Road 20 at Snowden's Meadow. That gate's closed, and it's closed for vehicle traffic as well as foot traffic. The reason for that closure is because we're concerned about public safety because of debris coming down, and because we have contractors who are actively up there working to try and mitigate that debris and stop it from going downstream. We want to give them room to work so they're not worried about someone coming up behind them while they're doing that important work for us. So the County Road 20 gate is that closure. No vehicle and no recreation or foot traffic beyond that gate. We also have a closure in terms of between town and that gate. We've asked for no camping along that road. There's a lot of camp spots along County Road 20. And because of the concern of high water, we don't want anyone camping along County Road 20 between that gate and Lake City. So you can still drive, you can still walk your dogs, you can still enjoy recreating between town and that gate, but we're not allowing camping at this time. That County Road 20 closure is going to change. And the reason I say it is going to change, last week we talked about how those closures are going to change depending on what our concerns are, as well as the work that we're doing, so that the people who are working have room to do the important work they need to do. Well, just a little bit ago, I announced that we're going to be doing more work at the Hidden Treasure Dam. So when the contractors get here next Tuesday, that means that we're going to close that road further down to give that crew room to work as they dismantle that dam. So that closure is going to start coming down. We'll set up a gate, and when you go up County Road 20, you come to that gate. That will be the new hard closure of no vehicles and no foot traffic beyond the gate. And then the other closure we have is on County Road 30. Currently, that closure is at the bottom of the Shelf Road, and just like on County Road 20, we have that closed to no vehicle traffic as well as no foot traffic. Road and Bridge is going to be working to get that road open so that we don't have concerns about debris coming down, and then we'll open it up to Burroughs Park. But as long as they're working, just like the crews that we have over on County Road 20, we want them to have room to work so they can get that job done for us before we open it up all the way to the trailheads at Burroughs Park. So please respect those closures, help us out with that so that the crews that are up there doing this important work have that room to work, and so that we know that people aren't up there potentially putting themselves at risk and then requiring more resources in terms of search and rescue or medical people to go up and rescue them because they went past that closure. And if you have questions, again, we also have Brant from BLM here to answer questions about those closures along the Alpine Loop, County Road 20 and County Road 30. Thank you.
So my name's Drew. I'm the state agency administrator for this incident. I'm with the Colorado Office of Emergency Management. And what I was just going to reflect a little on here is the interagency effort that we have going and have had going for a number of months now, actually. So contributing to this incident, we have the town, county, the state governor's office for Colorado, and the BLM are all helping fund what is going on, and the efforts, the mitigation efforts we have going, the planning efforts to make sure the plans for Lake City and Hinsdale County are the best they can be. We also have U.S. Forest Service, National Park Service, Colorado State Patrol, the Department of Parks and Wildlife. There's numerous Gunnison County agencies and numerous Mineral County agencies who have all also been involved in planning for and are preparing to respond if we need them to respond to help with either evacuations or during a flood or after a flood at this point. And there's a number of other specialist agencies also who have been working with us, other state agencies. I think last time I counted state agencies involved, I think we're up to about 10 different state agencies that are helping look for solutions to make Lake City as safe as we can make it, given the situation we're under here. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that and thank the community for welcoming us. And we're doing everything we can to make the situation as safe as we can. So appreciate that. Thank you.
So for the second week in a row, I'm the closer again, so you know it's almost time for the show to be over. So on behalf of the Mayor, Board of Trustees, and town staff, I want to thank you all for showing up again this week to listen to the most up-to-date information we have regarding the situation and the drainages and what you can do to help yourself, each other, and our community. The town continues to be engaged in all areas of planning regarding town infrastructure, response, economic impact, and recovery. Town staff continue to make necessary preparations to protect both our drinking water and our sewer system. We continue to work with all of our partners at the local, state, and federal level who bring incredible expertise to this event. Today we actually had an opportunity, our engineer, to sit with the Corps of Engineers and talk through some of our issues with our wells, and it was very insightful, so thank you for taking those few moments. Last week, I spoke briefly about the need for volunteers to accomplish an operation to fill sandbags that would assist in critical infrastructure protection. We reached out to the community and our broader regional connections, and what a response we received. In the last week, we had over 200 volunteers participate in our community who put in more than 720 hours here. While most helped to fill and carry sandbags, smaller groups worked tirelessly at the museum to organize and move collected treasures for protection, relocate historical records, and provide skilled labor with equipment. There was even some fun along the way. In the end, critical needs were met, and we filled 15,000 sandbags to date that are staged in locations throughout. Now, we may still need more volunteers. But But again, an incredible amount of thanks goes out to all of you that have either helped with these larger volunteer projects or have just lent a hand to a friend, loved one, or maybe someone you didn't really know well in our community. I'd also like to take an opportunity to thank a gentleman who's up here at this table tonight. That's going to be Jeff Wright. What you don't see is that the staff in the UCG rotates through, and we get new folks that kind of come along. Tonight is actually Jeff's last night with us, and while we typically applaud folks inside the UCG, I'd like you all to give a small hand to Jeff. With that, I'm going to pass the mic back off to Michael, our PIO, and he's going to be working on questions and answers. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time we'd like to open it up for questions to the panel. Please try to limit the questions to items that are general in nature, that everybody's going to want to be interested in. If you have a question about your particular property or your situation, we'll be happy to meet with you once the meeting breaks up. We'll be along the wall with the maps. Anybody who'd like to ask a question, please come on up to the microphone.
This would, is it on? Bob, turn it on there, can you see it?
So it's on.
Hello? Is it on? There you go. Okay. This would concern anyone across the river. In the case of the failure of the 8.5 Street Bridge, is the route through Lake City Heights and Vickers to the highway available?
So the question was, if we have a failure at, in this case, the 8.5 Street Bridge, but I'm going to broaden it to if we have failures in any bridge that might cut off access to a subdivision or to a property. So the answer to your question is yes, we do have evacuation routes, what I'm calling back doors, out of a lot of these places. I've worked on both sides of the river, establishing those, mapping those, and we're going to have those in the hands of not just the sheriff's office, but also first responders to be able to get in, and then to be able to give instructions on what those back doors are if we had to evacuate you out of the community. So we have those back doors open and available. What I want to say along with that is some of those back doors cross private property, and we want to respect that private property. So I'm asking you to not scout the back doors and trespass on people's land ahead of time. A lot of you, just like you described, you know exactly where that is because it's a historic route that was in use before. And those are the routes that we're looking at to be able to get people out.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. All these numbers are very impressive on this model peak forecast, but I guess I'm not real familiar with the terminology, but can you give us some sort of a baseline? I don't know, if we hit 3,000 cubic feet per second down Henson Creek, what does that mean?
I think at this, so what the question was is, if we hit a certain level, let's say this 10% number that's on this sheet, if we hit that number, what does that flooding level look like in the county? The answer is, at this point right now, we don't know. There's a lot of variables to it. This right here is a clean water, nice, on a regular high runoff season. We're not looking at nice, clean water in this situation. We're not looking at normal runoff in this situation. To the National Weather Service. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I'm just, these numbers, though, mean nothing to me. I mean, it's a pretty chart, but we don't have any baseline about, what does that mean? What is the...
Okay, let me see if we can get somebody that can help you.
So what I've been told is that right now the rivers are running approximately 300 CFS. They're low. Average for this time of year is around 800.
bridges and evaluating them, I think the word you use is categorize them, the answer to that is yes. Bridges are incredibly important, especially from my perspective, when it comes to response, when it comes to evacuation, access to be able to help people out. So bridges are a very high priority. We have gone up County Road 20 and assessed bridges up County Road 20. We've done it up County Road 30 as well, and we've also done it with CDOT on Highway 149, looking at bridges. We're not only looking at public bridges, because private bridges can also have an impact on the whole picture if we have something that comes up and starts to build against one of those private bridges as well. Like you said, we do have equipment.
Point so that they know who is in town and who's out of town.
Thank you. So the question was, in the evacuation plan, we've established evacuation points. One north of town, one south of town. So depending on which way we evacuate, people have that evacuation point that they're going to come to. And the answer is yes, we do need people to stop at those evacuation points. We've intentionally set those evacuation points in safety zones. There are places that we're not concerned about flooding, we're not concerned that we're going to have an emergency at that location, and we have a spot that we can stop, catch our
Bs or GMRS.
Okay, so we're all, we know what those are, but we're shaking our head. I don't believe so. I know that we've had a ComL, a communications lead, come in and work on our radio systems to expand the capability in VHF and 800 megahertz that we use quite a bit. I don't believe that we have anybody that is monitoring
option to leverage our scale to provide that for private infrastructure. Second part, is there a map where we can see where they're currently being deployed so we can duplicate